All right, OpenClaw, we've all been sold that it's this magical thing that's going to be able to remember everything we told it, that's going to be do everything on our computer that we tell it to do, and it doesn't quite work that way. I think we all sense that it's so close. If it could just remember everything that we told it the way we expect it to, if it had access directly to all these applications and could handle the Chrome integration perfectly, which I'm going to do another video on that one as well to improve that. But I think we all sense that we're really, really close. But today I want to tackle one specific thing that seems to be plaguing a lot of people, and that's the memory search function. Now, OpenClaw's memory search is broken out of the box. It's not kind of flaky, it's broken. Now, there's over 30 GitHub issues. Zero documentation that actually explains the fix, and the best part, it fails silently. There's no errors, no warnings. Your agent just quietly pretends it can't remember anything. Now, if you give me 5 minutes, it's all it takes. But there's a gotcha at the end for anyone running Discord or Telegram that'll save you a lot of frustration, so do not bounce early. Now, here's what happens when you install OpenClaw. You start chatting with your agent. It creates memory files, session transcripts, all the right stuff. You think it's working perfectly. Then a week later, you ask it, hey, what did we decide on that project? And it goes, I don't have information about that. You just talked about it. It's in the files. The agent wrote it down, but it can't find its own notes. So what's actually going on? OpenClaw ships with a built-in search that's basically grep with extra steps. It's bad. The real search engine that you want to use, QMD, is a separate tool you install along OpenClaw. But even after you install it, you need 2 config blocks that nobody tells you about. If you miss either one of them, the system silently falls back to that garbage built-in search. No error, no log entry, just bad results wearing a disguise. Now, what is QMD? QMD is a local search engine, and it's, in this case, it's integrated very well with OpenClaw, but it doesn't ship with it. It's a separate install. It was added as an opt-in back in early February of 2026, so make sure you're on that version or later. I hope to God you are. It's early March now, and there's countless fixes and features that have been added since then. And what it does, it installs 3 small AI models. They're a little over 2 gigs, and it runs entirely on the machine. There's no phoning home. There's no internet connection needed for this. But why is it good? Well, it uses a hybrid search. It understands meaning so that Twilio migration from last week finds results even if the word migration never appears in your notes. Vector similarity plus keyword matching together, that's what separates found 0 results from here's actually what you discussed on February 14th, line 23. It also indexes every conversation you've had now. If it's Discord, Telegram, Terminal, Web UI, all searchable. Or at least it should be, which brings us to the fix. Everything we're about to do goes into one file, openclaw.json. If you don't know where that's located, ask OpenClaw to tell you the operating system you're running. Now, quick note, I'm on a Mac, but this works the same on Linux and Windows WSL. Same config, same file, same commands. Only difference is in the install method and how fast your hardware loads the models. Both config blocks you need are in the description. Grab them. I'll explain what each setting does, and more importantly, what breaks if you skip it. Now, even though I'm giving you the details and all the information in the description, you can also just ask OpenClaw. That's the beauty of this. If you give it some amount of description, you ask it more information, it can give you a lot more information about it as well. But the first thing here is on the list is the backend QMD. This is the on switch. So without it, QMD never gets called, period. Doesn't matter what else you configure. This is step 0, and it's not in the quick start guide. The next one is sessions.enabled true. Without this, your agent can only search things it explicitly wrote to a file. With it, every conversation becomes searchable. If you skip this, your agent has selective amnesia, remembers its own notes, forgets everything you've said. Okay? Now the timeout in milliseconds, 30,000, the default is 4 seconds. Now, when we're running these local models, you need more than 4 seconds for it to find it. So on a Mac where the model needs to load into memory, the first query takes 10 to 15 seconds. So the default's just not going to work. So whoever set the default. I've got questions, so set it to 30,000. That's going to be best for QMD specifically. 4 seconds may be okay with a built-in garbage one, but again, 4 seconds to find garbage, not worth it. Okay. Now the second block is in higher up in the file. It's in this memory search section here, and this is where most people get got. You can have a flawless memory block, everything perfect, and your agent still uses bad built-in search because the gateway doesn't care about your memory config when routing queries. It cares about this block, right? So the provider local, this is the single most important line in your entire config. It tells the gateway to actually use QMD. Without it, queries go to the built-in provider and your QMD setup is decorative. This is why we've got 30 plus people filed GitHub issues. They did everything right except this one line is buried in a completely different section in the config. Now, fallback none, I recommend this one because if you have some sort of silent failure, it hiccups, it times out, there's an issue with the model loading or whatever, it'll silently fall back to the built-in search, which is garbage. So you don't want to use that. So you want to set it to none and you want to see the failure. Trust me, you want it to fail. You don't want it to try to use the other one. When it fails, it at least tells you it fails, and then you know you can figure out what caused it to fail for QMD versus telling you there's no results. Now, sources memory sessions setting, this searches files and conversations. So if you leave out sessions and you lose recall of everything that wasn't written to a markdown file. And the last one in the list here is hybrid true. That's a vector plus keyword search. So this is the whole point. You skip it and you're running QMD with one hand tied behind its back. So you want to have this in place. Now, QMD is a separate package. It doesn't come with OpenClaw. You install it globally with Bun or NPM. And I'm going to go ahead and put the command in the description for you. It's also, again, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, you literally can just tell OpenClaw that you want to have it install QMD, and it will probably go find it. You might just have to go search for the GitHub repo and tell it, what the link is, and it'll just go ahead and do it for you, right? Super, super easy. I think that's what I did initially, and it works just great, right? So in the terminal here, if I just do, QMD update, this is, initially what you can run. This indexes your memory files and session transcripts. It tells QMD what to search through, essentially. I've run it before, so it's already done all the things. There's essentially nothing changed here. The other one is QMD embed. Now this one, the first time you run it, I just recently ran it, so it has nothing to do. But the first time you run it, it's going to download those 3 small AI models from Hugging Face, which are a little over 2 gigs total. So it's going to take some time on the first run for sure. And then if you have some things that need to be embedded, of course, it's going to take some time to do that. But everything's pre-configured in terms of what models to download. There's no config, no selection. It knows exactly what to do to download those specific models. After that first download, you're cached in locally and it's fast, ready to go. I will tell you that if you have something beefier like a Mac Studio that's got 64 gigs of memory or more, you can consider other local models, and it is configurable. So that is something you could consider in using some more advanced local models. I found with the out-of-the-box models, it works really, really well. But again, if you have the overhead, go ahead and do it. Another thing to note is that if you use a beefier model, it's not taking all that memory up all the time. It is only taking up memory when it's kicked into gear and it's actually doing the work in the background. All right, when you do run this embed, you definitely want to watch the output. You should see, file counts for both memory files, session transcripts, etc. And then after these two things, and after you've changed the configs, you'll want to make sure you restart the gateway. Don't skip that. If you don't restart the gateway with OpenClaw gateway restart, then it's not going to pick up the configuration and it's not going to do what you want to do. So you could be running it for days thinking it's working, it's not. Okay. Now, if you're running a version, the latest version I have, it's as of March 2nd or later, the default tools profile changed to messaging. And let's see if I can find that default tools profile. Oh, I'll have to find it here somewhere. But it changed it to messaging, which strips all shell access from your agent. So the agent can't even debug its own QMD issues. So you want to set that to full. I'll go ahead and put that in the description as well so you have that. It's important that that's in place. I ran into that after I did an update. So there are certain things you have to be aware of when you do update, when it adds some security or other things in there to make sure that this is functional. So every time I do an update, I usually just ask OpenClaw to check to make sure that QMD search is functioning, just to make sure that something that we did is not undone or blocked or that sort of thing, right? So once you've done all this stuff, you want to make sure you don't just run QMD query from your terminal and call it a day. I mean, that tests the binary, but you want to make sure you test the entire chain. So you want to go into OpenClaw and you want to do a real test. Ask your agent something that it can only know from a past conversation. Try to ask it something obscure from something that maybe you had a conversation about something yesterday, but then you don't ask it in such a straightforward way, right? Would we talk, like if it's about, maybe you're talking about a specific project around Cloud Code or something, right? You'd say, hey, tell me about all the things we discussed around Cloud Code yesterday. And it would just give it a very general question and it would extract more specific things. All right, now if it's working, you'll see multiple things, especially if you do this within the Gateway Web UI, because it will often show you, if you've got the configured properly, it'll show you a bunch of output that it's doing in the background. So it'll do agent calls memory search and the tool output, results come back with file paths and line numbers, and then the correct answer with citations, right? If you do it from Telegram or Discord or one of those, it's not going to show you all this stuff under the covers. So if you really want to test it, go to the web UI, and that's in the main channel. Typically is where I usually go for something like that and show you all the details as long as you have that toggled on. Now, if it says I don't have information about that, the chain's broken, obviously, it's most likely causes that memory search dot provider isn't set to local. So go back, check it, make sure that's in place, restart the gateway. Now, the Discord and Telegram thing. So you've made this far, you're running Discord or Telegram, and you already have the fix. It's in the config you pasted earlier, but something I want to explain to you is why one line matters so much. There's a scope default allow. Scope default allow, which is right here. Scope default allow. Okay? Now, why is this so important? Now, the factory default for the setting is deny. QMD only indexes direct messages. So every Discord channel conversation, every Telegram group, every shared chat, it's totally invisible. It's not indexed, not searchable, gone. Now, it's not gone, fortunately, but your agent has been having conversations in those channels for weeks, maybe months, and without the setting, none of it exists in the search index. Now, that's just one word. That's the difference between an agent that recalls everything and one that's totally deaf to 90% of your conversations. Now, how do I know this? Well, we ran into this in our own setup. QMD was working perfectly for DMs and certain messages, but the agent couldn't recall anything from our Discord server. Weeks of project planning, architecture decisions, client discussions, all totally invisible. And one setting that was buried in the config was a bad default. So if you're setting this up on a machine that's been running OpenClaw for a while with the old default, run QMD embed again after updating the config, and that'll pick up all the conversations that were previously excluded. Then you restart the gateway and it should pick it all up. Now your agent has full recall access, every surface, Discord channels, Telegram, all that stuff. So 2 config blocks, 1 scope setting, that's the whole fix for a problem with 30 plus open GitHub issues and 0 clear documentation. Everything's in the description. Copy, paste, restart, done. Now, if this helped you at all, appreciate it. If you give me a like, subscribe, we're going to be putting some more content out. Another thing I have is how to enable search for free. I know a lot of people are using Brave or other things to do search within OpenClaw. To be honest with you, I think that's garbage. There's a much, much more effective way to search, and it's completely free. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks.